going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Amy, and today we have a voiceover video because I pretty much knew that I would not get amazing audio quality on the highway. But I was really curious to see how the DJI Osmo Action 4 handled the lower light conditions, as this was at sunset or about to be sunset, and I feel like it did a pretty good job. I'm probably going to have to edit a little bit of what looks blown out in terms of the light and add a little bit more contrast, but the picture quality still looks amazing. I think this camera is one of the best for being able to accurately capture what you're actually seeing. So when I watch the footage, it's like I'm reliving the ride, because it literally seems like it's that sharp, the quality is there. And I haven't used the GoPros in a very long time. The only one I ever had was the GoPro Hero 3, and I think it was the Black Edition. And I felt like it lacked a lot of, quality in terms of low light conditions, and of course, we all know the audio issues that they had. So I have no idea on the newer models, but I feel like there's a lot of discontent in the motovlogging community about GoPros, and I think a lot of people are shifting away from them because they are really not innovating. So DJI, I think, is a front runner, and I think they're doing a really nice job. So I did end up doing a little bit of color grading on this video, which I normally don't do because the quality is really, really good on the DJI. But like I said, some of the sky got a little bit blown out, so I brought back some of the color. And if anybody is interested, I use Capcut for desktop and mobile editing, and it's really easy, really simple to use and understand. And even if you're not like really versed on video editing, it's pretty easy to find tutorials online and be able to edit. The one thing too that's important, if you have had video editing software in the past that's like heavy and loading and takes a long time and uses a lot of your computer RAM and whatnot, their platform seems relatively really smooth and very streamlined. I've had just a couple of glitches where when I tried to apply certain effects, it would say there was like an internet connection, and it did it a couple of times, so I knew it wasn't on my end. So what I did was I logged out and logged back in, and that for some reason fixed the problem. So if you ever have that issue, that's something to look into. So shifting gears here for a moment, I feel like a lot of people right now are really struggling and really focused on money. And I think none of us are immune to the rising costs in living and groceries, and fuel hasn't been terrible, but all these things combined, we're looking at a couple of years ago, we're now paying what, 3, 5, 10 times more money for stuff that we used to expect to be around a certain cost. And I want to just put it across that focus on the things that you can control, right? Like, you can't control what somebody's going to charge for ground beef, right? You can't control what the cost of gas is. You can't control what the cost of rent or mortgage is based on the market and what have you. So I would say it's better to focus on how can I bring in more money, because then you kind of shift from what could be a lack mentality where all you're thinking about is fear and debt and expenses and how am I going to pay this? When's the money coming for this? I need to figure out how to pay for a washer, a dryer, my car, something that comes up. I know in the past I have greatly been caught up in these thoughts and fears, and what ends up happening is you just create more of them. You just end up, if you say it too, especially like I'm always dealing with bills, I have all these bills, or I have all this debt I have to figure out. I have, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? And if you get caught up in that, you'll start to see that you're literally like creating your own reality around that. And it takes a lot of change in your thinking to kind of look for what may not even be seeing. You're looking around like, well, what's good about this situation, right? But I think you have to start from a place where you start to feel better. And one of the things I learned years ago was there was a guy on YouTube who said, don't keep your bills around you. He was like, you should lock them in a drawer. Like, you got to pay them, right? It's not, you shouldn't have to have physical reminders around you, because it's just going to remind and enforce the idea that you have all these bills. And it was kind of hard for me to accept his solution at first of, expect checks instead of bills. And I'm like, yeah, but where is the checks gonna come from? But when you go to check your mail and you're like, oh geez, I don't even want to check the mail because there's going to be a bunch of bills in there. And of course there always is. But his philosophy was like, you should look in, the mailbox, and even if you have like no clue where this money could potentially even come from, just expect checks. And so years ago, I used to try that, and I was like, this is silly. But there would be cases where, yes, that would actually happen. And it wasn't like, a lottery check in the mail, but when we first moved to Missouri, we unexpectedly, because we had literally no idea this was going to happen. We were moving, and so we had paid off our other mortgage in Florida. And when we got here, like maybe a month later, I'm just, thinking maybe something good's in the mailbox today. And there was a check for like $3,000 from our mortgage company in Florida. And I had been on the phone with them like several times, clearing up the last of our, statement and, our final payments and all of this. And apparently they had all this extra, money for us in escrow. And I don't know if they just didn't know the amount at the time when I talked to them on the phone, or if it, if they just, whatever. So this check came at like the perfect time, because when we moved in, we immediately had to buy a washer and dryer and a new fridge. And it was just like, oh, well, this is nice, but I think that's the kind of thinking you have to sort of shift to. And yeah, you're going to be like, well, this is crazy, but I think looking for the potential of money or abundance to come into your life will drastically change how you look at the world. So even if you don't see, like for like a week or two, nothing shows up in the mail that's like anything other than a bill, but you're going to feel good just thinking about maybe something will show up in the mail. And I think that's the key, because once you sort of shift how you feel about life and money, because there's so much, what would you say? There's so much energy around money, and most of it is bad for most people because they don't have a lot. So if you can find ways in your day to sort of shift that, even if it's just as simple as like, I'm gonna think differently about it, just watch. And I want to hear back from you. Like, come back to this video and comment when you apply this.